awesome. Hey, Peter. Hey, Dee. I know Beth is like holding down the fort for us on a walk in the glorious sun while we're all sitting around a Saturday talking about work. But I want for this to actually feel like a spa experience for you. So it's a very good way to start a weekend, especially a Labor Day weekend. So let me just hit the music here and we're going to dive in. All right, I'm so glad that you all are here. This just felt like some people were like, why are you doing this on a Labor Day? But I felt like, you know what? We're going to all enjoy our weekend a whole lot more after this hour. And so, for even any of you who are listening to the replay, to the recording, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. This is each week I tune in and I think, okay, what have I heard all week long? Like, what's the theme for this week? What are people really craving and struggling with? And this week it just feels like stuckness. Like we came through this amazing moment in time, these last couple years that have us all just going like, hold on, what am I doing? Like a complete reset that I feel like I thought, we had the great resignation and now we have the great shuffle where people are like moving jobs and trying to really make meaning out of this time. And I don't see the movement. I still get calls from people just going, I'm afraid now with the economy and the inflation and all the things that are cooking. I know I need to move, but I can't. And these are like wildly successful people. You look around this room and as people join, I mean, somehow the crew that I get to work with are the achievers of the world and the ones who really want to make an impact. The ones who say like, I know I have a deeper purpose in life. What Jennifer and I were just talking about at the start of the call is, why am I really here and what am I here to do? And that ache that comes when you're not doing it is why I do what I do. I think I want all of us to live a life with no regrets. And at the end of our lives, we can say, we crushed it. We did what we were here to do, that we lived the dream, or we at least had a damn good time. So that's what we're here to discuss today. And it's going to be kind of workshop-y. Like I want you to come out of this with some answers for yourself. So if you have a sec now, grab a pen and a paper, something to write down some thoughts, because the questions I'm going to ask you are provocative and they're meant to move you forward. So that if you are here today because you're feeling like you're at a crossroads, today you will have moved the needle. So also, if you feel compelled, I always love to like take a pulse check at the beginning of the call. So put a word in the chat around just how you are right now, like a word about how you're feeling. And then we're going to check in again at the end to see if maybe that shifted a little bit. And I call these, so like if you're seeing this for the first time, this is Spark Live. And it really is the time for us to gather to help ride the waves together. I give you some of my best tools and strategies just because that's what I'm here on the planet for. And I do a lot of this in small group and at companies, and it's all like been hidden for years, kind of in these arenas where it's not scaling out to the world. And so you being here is helping me really fulfill that longing, is to help more people. So feel free to share this if it's helpful when we're all done. All right, so today the tools that I'm going to give you around getting unstuck, I want to just preface that they are going to help you in any area of your life where you're unstuck. The conversation today is going to center a bit around work and being stuck in career, but these tools universally will have you get unstuck in relationships, in your body, in any other goal area of your life. So you can hold these for future when you feel like you're stuck too. So by the end, I want you to feel full of possibility and that you'll have the tools to keep you free. And also we'll spend a little time talking about if you like are so supercharged and inspired and you go, oh my God, I need to change my job. Or I actually do believe that I can go for my ideal job. There is a course that I'll tell you about at the end, and you can drop off if you don't need it. But if you want to stay, I'll share information about the Find Your Ideal Job course that's launching September 20th. And it's just 9 weeks to own your purpose and go for the goddamn dream. So, and it's something that I found this year especially is we will only advance quickly if we do it together. I've done groups this year that have been so unbelievably meaningful because when you can sit around with other people who are like you, who are going for things in life, and this particular course will be around going for the dream job, it bolsters you and it gives you courage that you might not have doing it alone. It just doesn't feel so scary. So that'll be towards the end. Now, I want you, just as we dive into these questions and the ways in which I get people unstuck, to think about what scenario you want to focus on right now. An area at work, maybe you want to choose something else. But just thinking about what is the nature of your stuckness. People will come to me and say, like, I need a promotion. I've been waiting for 2 years. They've been telling me I was going to get it, and I haven't gotten it. Or I have experienced an incredible career. I think, Jennifer, I'll out you because you asked this question. I've had like wildly successful career, and I'm now at the tipping pinnacle point, and never really loved my work. So I feel stuck in that arena. I would like to love my work. So focus in on that, and then I'm going to take you on a ride. All right. Why do we stay stuck is really important to know first, because I believe there is always a good reason for everything that we do. And you can just take that honest, that no matter what is cooking in your life, no matter what you're holding, what you're dealing with, there's a good reason for it. And that's where I start always is, well, what's the good reason? Like, we're all brilliant, so why are we staying stuck? And I'm going to pop in the chat the reasons that we're going to start with. And you can cut and paste these and keep them for yourself to be thinking about every time you do get stuck. Well, is it because I can't figure out how to get unstuck? People think that they, are at a point A and they want to be at a point B, but they don't know how to get to point B. Is it because you don't believe you can? That there's no way out? That you think you're powerless to change the situation? Which I'll tell you is really often very untrue, that we're ever totally powerless to change something. That staying stuck is easier than making a change. This is true for a lot of people if you're just down for the count and it's just easier to settle. Is it because of fear? Fear that, you'll fail, fear that you'll be a wild success, fear for all the reasons. Do you have low energy? I put a thing out on the website for everybody and they opt in to just get a free download on the Doorways to Energy right now. So if you haven't gotten that, do it on the website, ShreeHealy.com. But oh my God, people are so low energy. We're exhausted. This year was my most exhausted year ever, having 2 kids at home during COVID and running my own business, and having done it for 15 years, I got to a real low energy point. It was scary. So that Doorways to Energy is there to help with that, but that should never be something that stops you from doing what you love. So tolerance could be that you're telling yourself, well, it is what it is, right? Everyone else is in it too. This is very common for relationships these days. That story that romance dies, you get into it and it's just like, yeah, well, this is what it is. Relationships are hard work, or jobs are jobs. Work is hard, like my dad used to tell me, so just get with the program. Not how I do, not how we're going to operate together. Someone might be in your way. That could be another situation that feels very real, like your boss hasn't given you the promo. Somebody is standing in your way. Kids can be that a lot of the times. Lack of time. Maybe, you know what it is you want to do, but you have a day job and the side hustle just doesn't feel like you can do it. You feel like you're running out of time. I know some people feel like they get to a certain point in their career and it's too late, and I am here to tell you it is never too late. I know that when you hit your 50s, you are just starting to touch your power. And I know people who have built millions and career pivots at 55 and beyond. I know one of my very best friends is 65 and she's barely hit her pinnacle moment, and she's one of the most successful women I know. So we'll work with all of these. Likelihood for success is also an interesting one. Like what I was learning way back, and I've studied the Tantra and I've been studying yoga since I was 25. And so that's 27 years of the study of philosophy of like the secrets of life. And there was a moment in which I felt very stuck in my marriage. I was with a man who wasn't really healthy at the time and had made a lot of hard choices, was cheating, and we're very dear friends now. So it's all good and it turns out, but there was a moment when I thought there is no way I'm going to make it in this relationship. And I had two little kids and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't have felt more stuck and never had before. And I went to one of my teachers, this incredible philosophy teacher, and I asked him, like, what do the great wise texts say? Like, what do these ancient teachings, thousands of years old, say about what to do in a situation like this? And he said, Cherie, your likelihood for success must be high. If you're to endeavor to do anything, the likelihood for success must be high. Because if not, it could become your undoing. And it was like chills in me. I knew my likelihood for success was not high, not even in the slightest. And would I be willing to continue knowing that it could be my undoing? No way. And so I think looking at all of these, if this brings up anything for any of you, you can put a question in the chat. Tell me what it is that you are experiencing as the greatest reason for your stuckness. And then we're going to have some group discussion in a minute. Okay, but that's just to simply, really, truly give you permission to be stuck. You are for a good reason. But we'll go into now some of the ways that we might move it. I have this philosophy and this mantra that I raised my kids with is there's always a way. And there's a great book called The Obstacle is the Way. And great leaders in this book talk about how sometimes when you have an obstacle, like one of these reasons we just went through, it's a blessing. It can be the actual doorway itself. Like what I had to learn in that moment of the marriage falling apart was I'm worth more than staying in something that's unhealthy. It was a moment of like getting to such extreme pain that I voted for myself. I was there for me. And that was a lesson that, I mean, I'm still learning. I feel like I'll be learning for the rest of time. But to ultimately love yourself enough to say, Jennifer, give yourself work that you love. You know, to say that your one precious life, as Mary Oliver says, is just that. And that it can't be wasted. So the first tool we're going to work with to get unstuck is called story checking. And it's probably one of the most profound things. I can totally attribute it to Brene Brown, that will keep you safe in life, will keep you in integrity and keep you true if you check out your stories, because the brain is a beautiful thing. The mind, it's here to serve us 24/7. But its job is to think and doubt, think and doubt, think and doubt. And a lot of us will get stuck in that loop of just never ending thinking and doubting. And in its effort to make sense of this wild time that we live in, it'll sometimes come up with stories that aren't true. It's trying to make meaning all the time. And if we aren't making up our own meanings for things, then our mind will just be left to its own devices to make up meanings, which are sometimes very highly influenced by the back of the brain, the amygdala, the stress center. It's very highly influenced by fear. It can be influenced by different parts of ourselves, like our little people that live inside, you know, and they're not always spot on. So in this scenario where you feel stuck right now, check in with yourself and say, is it true? Is it true that someone's in my way? Is it true that I'm powerless to change? I'll tell you about a couple stories of other clients that I've been working with. Like one of them, top of her game at one of the most powerful companies in the world. In the beginning of her time there, I used to say, I feel like you are hiding out. Like you're not totally being used for your gifts. And it could look to me like you're stuck. Like I don't know if there's likelihood for success for you to bring all your superpowers to this job. Her story was, it's going to take time. And I'm here for that. Like, this ultimate arrival point in my career, and I'm going to work with these people. I'm going to meet them where they are, and I'm going to take my time. And I've watched it, and it's been genius because she's changing the whole direction of the company now because she took the time to gain their trust. So that's a healthy story, right? That's a good story that actually served her. Some other people could be waiting. I know another client who was brought into a company and leveled really low. She's double Harvard, absolute unicorn, and they leveled her super low. And she doesn't feel like she's being used. She's wasting her time. She's feeling completely disoriented, depressed, anxious, like all these things that I think, man, I don't know that is a scenario where I'd wait, right? That feels like a stuckness, that there's a lesson to be learned quickly. And we try all the things to move in and around that. And once you've tried all those things, realize that there isn't a path and that you're being underused. Like this other client who, absolute amazing human, here to save the planet. That is her purpose in life. Her mission in the world is to save planet Earth. Worked for Barack Obama, comes to this company with her hair on fire to save the planet. And there's a process at this company. It's very slow. You have to go through all the processes to get to the level where you could actually cause impact, the way she's driving impact. And it was a no-go. Her story was, it's either here or somewhere else. Like, I don't have the time. The planet doesn't have the time. So her story, here or somewhere else, was a really good one. And that fire actually got her to rise up and break the process and get exactly what she needed because she had a story that was powerful. I'm here to save the planet, here or somewhere else. Right? So there's another common story. Another one of my clients that I'm working with right now has been at a job for a really long time. And I'm sure you guys all know about the golden handcuffy story. Like, I can't make money like this anywhere else. Which is a story to be checked. It could be true. It could be that you need to stay and make that money, but because you're making that money and you're not in fight or flight, you're not in survival mode, that you spend the rest of your time building the next thing you're going to jump to. Or you highly question and work with entrepreneurs and people who are driven to build something that could make way more money than where you currently are working for the man. You know, there's all kinds of scenarios where we can work with this one, but I want that story to be thoroughly checked. And sometimes it helps to like call a person like me or a friend who loves you and say, I'm telling myself this thing and I need to check it out. Do you think it's true? And a little Byron Katie moment, if you guys know about her, she has these 4 questions that are so powerful for really getting to truth. And you could say to yourself, okay, this is my story. This is the statement. I can't make money like this anywhere else. Is it true? I don't really know. How can you possibly know that it's true? How can you absolutely know that it's true? So then you'd have to do like data and research and really check it out to know that it's absolutely true. And then the third question is, what happens when you have this thought? I mean, you feel like a caged animal, you feel stuck, you feel like I have no choices in life, I feel depressed, I feel tightness in my chest. 4th question is, what would be possible without this thought? So those 4 questions, you can look them up. Byron Katie has she calls them the work. Those 4 questions are genius for checking stories. So that's step number 1. And then the second one is, who do you think you are? You know, like a lot of times our brain will fire off that question like, who do you think you are? Who do I think I am? You know, and I like to answer that question and really be clear. Well, who am I? Like, who have I become? You know, I'm 52 right now and looking at like this whole new life. My kids are off and empty nesting. What could be possible right now? I have to take time to catch up to who I've become. And that's what this year was about for me, to say, I have been doing a lot of things like heads down, providing, protecting, doing all the stuff, working this job, this beautiful mission that I have for 15 years on top of a previous career. And I'm like, Who do I think I am now? Who have I become? What am I here for? Does anything need to be updated? You know, for those of you who are at this crossroads and you're thinking it might be too late, or I'm at this age or whatever, it is never too late to stop and say, what am I craving? What do I want right now? And do I believe I'm worthy of it? I find so many times people get into jobs where they've been given a title. Like this guy I'm working with right now calls me, he said, Vice President Deputy Counsel. And I'm like, cool, if you could give yourself a title, like your real title, what would you give yourself? And he goes, head bitch in charge. And I was like, that is so much better. You know, like, what are you seeing yourself as now? Have you accepted the roles and the titles that the world has given you? Like this one company that I've worked with now for like 15 years, the most powerful company on the planet. They only hire unicorns. Only. Like the best of the best. They, pride themselves on this. But you know what happens when you're a unicorn in a sea of unicorns? You forget you're a unicorn. They're all like low self-esteem, lacking confidence, completely disillusioned. Like, I know I used to be really special, but I don't feel like it anymore, This guy that I'm working with now said, I don't wow anyone anymore. I don't know where my wow went. And it's not about all the stuff out here. Really, truly, like all these roles and titles that we put on. I'm a mom, I live in Menlo Park. I'm a possibilitarian, but what? Who am I really? And this could get super spiritual and woo-woo if we wanted it to, but you can just ask that question and see what answers. Are you a really cool soul who came onto this planet to enjoy what it is to be human? Do you feel like you're a big heart on legs who has like a desire to solve a problem in this world, or a desire, like, I think the best goal I ever heard was somebody came to me and she said, I know people hire life coaches for like big things and like launching companies and writing books, and she said, I'm not sure if my goal is a good one. And I said, what do you want? And she said, I would like to spend more time in hammocks, please. Can you help me with that? And I was like, are you kidding me? That is the best goal ever. You should co-teach everything with me, because that's the goal. That's the goal. So it's about asking yourself, who are you? And maybe even who are you becoming? Who do you want to be? I always wanted to be this enlightened person. Like when I was little, I'd say I want to be calm-faced when I grow up. And I'd put this every year in my little school book, I want to become this calm face. And my mom was like, I'm not sure what a calm face is or what that pays even, And it was like, I knew that I wanted to become a wise person, like that person who walks down the street like the Dalai Lama, they just kind of got it dialed. And I hit a point at like 36 where I was just like facing off with God, like, when is it gonna happen? Like, how many yoga classes do I have to take and how many books do I need to read? And I got this like deep knowing we are already that, all of us. We came in perfect. We didn't come in with papers and credentials or permission slips. And we came in like wired with desire and talents and superpowers galore, like a fingerprint that only we have. And the indigenous teaching that I always say in all of these is you have a gift to give that if not shared is lost to the world forever. And it's something only you can do. Like, sure, there are a load of leadership coaches out there, but there's only my voice and the way that I say a thing, that only I will make my mark on the planet in this way. And each one of you too. And it's why my tagline is bring it, the world needs you. We need each one of you doing what you're here to do and becoming you. I think ultimately that's the purpose answer for all of us, is to become ourselves and to love that. So easier said than done, I'm sure, for all of us, especially now. But that's the question that I want you just to sit with, and maybe you sit with it all over the weekend, is who am I being? And in the job that you're stuck in right now, is this job bringing out the best in you? You know, usually we're stuck because of conditions around us that aren't bringing out the best in us. I'm sure you've all been in relationships like that, right? Where we're around somebody or in an environment that just does not bring out the best of us. And then we think we're that person, you know? Like when I used to work in a cubby, a little cubicle, and people were knocking on my cubicle all day long, I was a little snappy. I was a little irritable. And I was like, is this me? Is this my best me? No. I need more time at home. Before work from home was even a thing, I was asking to WFH. And you have to look at that and say, is this place bringing out the best in me? Maybe not, maybe, but I'm very interested in what are the conditions that you require to be the person that you want to be. And I do think a lot of corporate cultures need a whole lot of zhuzhing. They are broken, a lot of them. What would create more trust and safety at work so that people could really, really stretch out and experience joy at work? So there was this moment at a conference a million years ago where this woman, Tara Sophia Moore, if you know her, she wrote a book called Playing Big, came out on a stage in front of like 300 women. And she said, nothing else but this: raise your hand if you remember the time before you were born when you were asked to be on the transition team to help us usher in a new era. And I was like, oh my God, I totally remember that moment. And everybody around us, it was like everybody started to get teared up, because it's Dr. Zach Bush, also a big fan of Dr. Zach Bush, says this constantly: we are at a tipping point in humanity. Why did we all come back for this? I often catch myself questioning this. Why did we come back for such a crazy mess of a time? Or is it a mess? Is it not the greatest awakening of all time? And are we about to enter into the Renaissance era where we are all going to experience more freedom and creativity and bliss than we ever imagined? Are we creating a heaven on earth? Is this the falling apart that had to happen? And are you on the transition team? Probably, because it seems like everybody I get to meet to do this work with is. And that's a way to take up your identity and be like, yeah, I actually do think that now's the time. I am that. I want to be that. And I want to be in a community of people like that, you know, who are all trying to leave this world a little bit better than we found it. So, next piece to consider to get further moved forward is, what is your purpose really? And this is something we're going to nail in the Find Your Ideal Job course. We are going to answer this question once and for all: who are you and what are you here to do? But I want to check in on, is the job that you feel stuck in, or maybe you're also stuck because you don't have a job right now and you're in between, is that job helping you fulfill your ultimate purpose? Like Kate, you know, this woman I was telling you about who wants to save the planet. She knows that is her purpose and it's urgent. Is your purpose also urgent? And I would say that we all have a shared purpose. So I don't want you to go into a storm now trying to think, oh, I don't know my purpose, because we really do love to overcomplicate that. But the shared purpose that we all have as a humanity is this: we're all here to experience love. We're all here to experience freedom. And we're all here to experience joy. End of story. That is shared, known for all of us. No one's ever been able to argue with that is what we're here for. So if you even just took that on and said, I need to explore no further, my purpose is freedom, love, and joy. Is your current job giving you that? Are you experiencing that there? Or do you believe that in your next job you will? That you will fight for that you'll do what it takes to have that? I can tell you story after story after story of people who are experiencing it, if you need to believe that it is possible, because it is, and probably now more than ever. Okay, so now we get into some of the nuts and bolts. Leverage. The only way to ever make a change, and this is really important to note too, because if you're one of those who's like, well, I am this age, you get to a certain age, you are who you are. Like my dad, he's in his 80s and he's so cute. He'd always say like, I'm never going to change. I'm never going to change. And then I tell you what, as he's gotten older, he's become the softest, kind. He has changed. He didn't try actually, but he's become the most lovely, loving man in his older years. So I believe always, no matter what age you are, you can change. And leverage is like these dials that we can use to make change. So you can try this on. I'm just giving you all these keys today, right? Because if purpose or identity or story doesn't work this well or the next ones. So leverage is creating a cocktail of just enough pain and just enough pleasure so that you can see you have to change, right? Sometimes we have like, I call them big fears and little fears, like, or real fears and fake fears, you know, depending on how you look at it. That a fear that, you know, you won't make money like you are now in another job is what I call like a pretend fear or a little fear, because the bigger fear is I'll die not having fulfilled my purpose. Like you gotta, you know, weigh. So pleasure and pain, you make a list of all the pleasures, all the payoffs, all the desires that would be fulfilled by making the change, by doing the things that it takes to get unstuck. And even if you don't know what those are yet, that's okay. That's my job. But what will making this leap give you on the pleasure scale? You know, all the possibilities. What will it do for you, for your health, for your relationships, for the world, for your bank account, you know, for your well-being, all the pleasures. And you just make a laundry list. And you could jot down a few right now if they come to you. And then the cost, pain side of the equation, and it's an interesting fact that pain is a really great and powerful motivator, but they still, in all the evidence, say that pleasure is a greater one. Like, we'll go for medication to solve a health problem before we'll go to a vitamin. But at the end of the day, I think push comes to shove, pleasure, if you have a longer list of pleasures, you're going to make the change, because we like to avoid pain. So your pain column, though, is what is it really costing you to stay stuck? And you need to get really honest. Like, what does it cost to have a life of not loving your work? What does it cost to stay in a relationship that's unhealthy? How is it hurting you? How is it hurting the people in your life? Think about the greatest tragedy that I can imagine is if, you know, you leave this planet without giving that one gift. Or if at 90 you regret anything. So this is kind of a tough column to look at, but it's really important to kind of get things moving. Okay, now we've got a couple more, and then we're going to get into like problem solving and group discussion. This other one, like I have to, you know the saying, I have to believe it, I have to see it to believe it. And I like to play with this too. Well, if you believe it, then you'll see it. But the best way to actually do this, instead of going around and doing all kinds of research and, you know, finding out if it's possible with all the people on the planet, to see it in your mind's eye now, what it is that you truly crave. The ideal job, the work you love, what it just feels like to be out of this stuck position that you're in. See it, feel it, and imagine it regularly. And I'm sure you guys have all done this at some point in your life, the visualizations, you know, but it's not empty visualizing. It's closing your eyes. And if you feel compelled to do it right now, you can do it right now. Just even giving yourself a dose of it. Like, you could imagine that you're sitting here in your stuck chair right now and not knowing how, not knowing what to do. And imagine that you could float up out of your body and I'm always over the ocean at that point, and see an island off in the distance where it's you just in the near future, in the new job, totally free, experiencing everything that you had ever wished. All the money, all the freedom, all the impact, all the joy. And feel that in your bones like it's real, like it's here right now. And you'll pick up clues if you visualize this over and over and over again throughout the day, just taking a break, 5 minutes, or not even. But the more you do it, the most amazing thing happens, that your subconscious mind responds to symbols and colors and stories. It doesn't know the difference between what's actually happening and what is going to happen. It has no differentiating between what is real and what is imagined. And why we're in this imagination age right now is if you can turn on that skill to imagine the possibility. And why I call myself a possibilitarian, because I live in that realm of, well, what if? What if we did go for it? What would it feel like? What would it look like? What would it give you? Your brain will start to settle down, and it'll stop thinking and doubting, and it'll believe that this thing is yours and that it is happening. And then you've just done this thing that's called upping your frequency or changing your electromagnetic signature. And that's very quantum physicsy. It's not woo-woo. It's very real, that you then become a beacon for that thing to come to you. And you start to attract opportunities around that, and people feel alignment with you for that. So it's a very simple, painless, not at all sweaty thing to do. So I would schedule that. I just put into your calendar, times to just imagine and watch what happens. So now I'm going to show you just on the ground, practical. This is what I am working with clients constantly, and I'm going to share my screen with you to show you how we get you into flow, how we get you into a place again where you believe in all the possibilities, but also in yourself, so much so that you get into what's called an upward spiral. Not a merry-go-round, not a treadmill, not a Groundhog Day, not a, oh my God, I was trying to keep my head above water. No rinse, repeat. It's this combination of these two cycles I call success cycles that you are using back and forth, in and out all the time. And as I show you these, I want you to think about, where are you living right now in these cycles? What's more needed, one or the other? And for those of you who've worked with me before, it never hurts to come back to this stuff, because it takes repetition to get this stuff in our being. And this is stuff that I will work with for the rest of my days. So this is the first one, the doing cycle. And this is what our world worships us for. This is what we get bonuses for. It's what we're rewarded for, is the doing in life. So it starts in the lower right, in the believe quadrant. So if you believe enough in yourself or the possibilities in the world that you want to get unstuck, that you want to have a better job, that there's something greater out there for you, then you will get into the cycle. You'll tap into your potential. You'll dig in and go like, I'm going to do some things. I'm going to take some action. I'm going to get on a call like this on a Saturday. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to ask a friend. I'm going to take a course. I'm going to, all the things you could do. Put your resume out there. Update your story. Then you will get results. You can't not ever stay the same when you take action. It will put things in motion, and you'll get ideas. You'll get feedback. You'll get calls. You'll get emails out. Results will come if you keep in that action-taking mode. And then what happens is then your belief gets updated. You go, oh my God, it worked. I can do more. What else can I do? And you keep going back into believing, doing more, taking action, getting results. And it's great. And for a long time in my work, this is all I did with people. And then I realized everybody's getting burned out and we're still feeling like we're on the treadmill. And there are a couple nuances to this now. There's a gap between results and believe, where I really should have this written in. Right at that arrow between results and believe needs to be celebration. You have to pause in between results to integrate the achievements, to celebrate the hell out of them, and to then further understand your capacity as a human to take unicorn status up a notch, because then the next time you go into the cycle, you'll go in at a higher level. And then let's just say you don't believe. Probably some of you on the call are like, I don't believe. That's why I'm here. I am completely stuck because I can't see it. Then the hack here is to go to action. Just bypass the whole thing, go straight to action, and we work on what actions do you need to take that would trip the cycle up and just start getting results, and then you'll have the belief. So it's helpful to, be in a group like this and talk to me or find out what are the actions that I need to take that are surefire, that are proven, that are going to shortcut the whole process. So that's our first one. But then the second one is what's newer, and I feel like the most powerful, and probably some of you need to be here. It's called the being cycle. So we can't inhale and never exhale, right? We can't be awake and never sleep. It's the other side of doing. And it's equally, if not, I would argue, more powerful than the doing at times. It's starting with trust, that you trust enough in the universe, you trust enough in the way your life has worked thus far. You plant your trust in something, in yourself, knowing that you're resourceful and that you always get stuff that you need. So much so that you can surrender, you can let go. Like this year, I did exactly this. I was like, I think my work is shifting finally to scaling and working with hundreds of thousands of people, not just organizations and individuals. Like, it's got to be bigger. And it's brought up so much fear because, oh my God, that's a whole nother class. But surrender enough to be like, okay, like, this is for me. The train has left the station. I know I came onto this planet to do a thing, and I certainly don't want to regret it at 90, so I'm just going to allow that. And then that brings this state of being that is essential to flow. It's essential to knowing who we are. It's also essential to having access, I think, to our deepest knowing, to our intuition, to our inner guidance, to our most imaginative, creative selves. That woman who wanted to just be on more hammocks, she's a genius because she can hang out there, she can be, and then she can allow for what the CEO of Patagonia knows so well. The book, Let My People Surf. He's like, the greatest ideas, the greatest creativity does not come from sitting behind a laptop and eating lunch at your desk. It comes from surfing the waves. It comes from being out on a mountain. It comes from being out in the world. Yeah, Dean knows this because she's a goddamn mountain climber surfer. So that's for you, babe. And then you get into this place where you can receive energy. God, man, my being was so scary because nobody pays me to just be. People pay me to do, right? I be when that's a whole other thing. I can channel and be on a call and allow that to come through. But to do the work that I do, I get paid to do. So when I was just being, I received tons of new creative ideas, energy galore. I think so many of us are just burned out and still so tired from COVID and what's going on in the world that you've got to put energy in order to give energy out. So sometimes when it looks like nothing's happening, or you're just waiting for that job, you're waiting for a promotion, or you're waiting for the lightning bolts to come, I don't want you to fight it. I want that you consider this a cycle, and it's a form of doing, this just being, and giving yourself spaces and time to do it with others, to let yourself be restored, and then just consider that you are opening up something in your body. If it's like you're opening up a door in your heart, you're opening up the top of your brain, you're opening up the bottoms of your feet to say, I am here to receive. I want to know. Send me the signs. Like, give me clues. I want to be helped. Like, I think givers like us are not good receivers. I don't know if you relate, but I am not always great at this. And in the being cycle, it's really remarkable how people will come out of the woodworks and want to help. Like, oh, I just I can refer you to a bunch of people, or I would love to do XYZ, anything. Like the love that people are willing to pour out to you when you open up just an intention to receive is so vital, because you're out there giving to everybody all day, every day. It's your turn to let people give to you and have that joy, you know? So, Dee's like, I totally eat lunch at my desk, though. I know y'all do, and I used to, and it's got to stop. I will put this out there on that note that the number one indicator of job satisfaction right now, it's proven, is deep and meaningful relationships. No one wants to go back to the office. I question because their relationships have all been real tested. And if you have even one dear friend on your team, you will outperform everyone by 7 times. So why we're not taking time to eat together is a real question for me. And in the blue zones, for those of us who want to live forever, you know, or at least to 100, the blue zones are places on the planet where people go and forget to die, right? That's what they call them, that people go there and they live into their hundreds. More centurions in these places like Italy and Greece, and even one place, Loma Linda, California. But these places where they think it's their diet, they think it's because they eat fish and veggies and they drink wine at night. They said it's not that at all. It's part of it. It's who they eat with, which I find very interesting, like the co-regulation that happens in our systems. And you can, if you haven't heard of polyvagal theory, it's that idea of that we can calm each other's nervous systems. That happens when you eat with friends is profound and beyond. And you will do so much better work after a lunch with good friends and some laughs than you would ever do at your desk. So that's my side rant. But here's what I want to do. Open it up to Q&A and conversation on this and make it really relevant to what you all are experiencing right now in your lives. And I just, if any of you have to pop off, you know, right after we do Q&A, we'll talk about the ideal course, or sorry, the Find Your Ideal Job course. So I'll give you details on that. And if you have questions about it, we'll spend some time on that after this, if you can linger on. But I just want, if you have to drop, to say thank you for being here. And I'm here to help in all the ways. There's the option to sign up for a free possibility call after this, to spend some time with me and work through this. And know that I see you as being somebody who's on the transition team, all of you. And what would be possible for this world if we all took up that role and said, I want to be someone who helps transition us into a much better era and to potentially experience the time of our lives in these next many years. So with that said, go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question, and let's get into a good talk on how to get you even further unstuck. Or you can share what's come up for you in the call so far. And maybe while you're noodling on a question, I'm going to answer Jennifer's, because she sent this to me earlier. And I think Jennifer's somewhere there in the room. But Jennifer asked, I'm 56 and have had a successful business career, but never really loved my work. Do you have any tips for people looking for a career and life change later in life? And oh, lady, do I ever, because I'm 52 and I feel like I'm at that point right now where I could have done my career one way, where I was at the beginning of the internet. I was poised right at the beginning. In fact, right before, where the internet, it was not even a thing when I started my career. And had I stayed with it, and things were going according to plan, I would have been probably a CMO at this point. If I'd been really on it, I'd be a chief happiness officer, chief joy officer. But I would have stayed working for the man, and I hopefully would have gotten some stock, and I would have crushed it, and I would have had all the things that people want working in the internet. But I wanted something more. I wanted to be at home with my kids, and I wanted to be really building a different career. So I knew that my purposeful career of helping people go for the dream was a little bit like I was going for the dream in a way that was going to be financially really risky, but that when I hit this moment, this would be my most like big career pivot would be right now. And I'm in my 50s. And I know the people that I hang out with, happen to a lot of them be older than me, all really, really started crushing it and stepping into new things around 55. So you are right, squarely positioned at the moment to reinvent. I mean, we know a lot of rock stars who have done this. There are all kinds of evidence based predictions about this time that said most all of us will have like 6 careers in our life. So if you've only had this one, and it's been wildly successful, then it's time for 5 more. There's so much possibility right now. And I would say for all of you, one of my favorite reads on this is A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink. He talks about the 6 skills that are vital to be employed moving forward. And they're wildly right-brained. They're incredibly human. There's none of these skills can be outsourced or automated. They can't be computerized. They're uniquely us. So now would be a time to say, I decide. I mean, that would be my first thing. Is at 56 or any age, if you say, I want to love my job, the first step is to decide. I'm gonna. And here's the really cool news. You are not supposed to know how. The how is not our job. And people are always shocked when I say this, but you are in charge of what. And a lot of like the Find Your Ideal Job course and the things that I do with people is figuring out, what do you want? What do you desire? Sometimes we're so busy and wrapped up on the merry-go-round, we don't even know what we want anymore. And that's okay. We'll figure it out. It's in there. Usually I take you back to the inner kid. The kid's still in there, and you knew what you wanted when you were little. So we have all these ways. And the last Spark Live was really great on this. If you want to go back, or write me if you need the recording. We went through these lightning questions that were really beneficial to following the thread back to who you are and what you want. And so I say dive in to remember that, to remember who you are and what you want. It might be all new. It might be completely, it might shock you who you've become. But you got to take some time, and I'm a big fan of taking a retreat or joining a circle with other people who are doing the same thing. And that'll be another thing that's coming out probably end of September. So that'll be an option to be in community and figure this out together. But I'd also ask your 90-year-old self, what do you want to say when we're sitting on the porch looking back on our life that we did? And that 90-year-old self will weigh in. I mean, we have access to that wisdom in ourselves right now. You can even sort of future pace yourself, future cast out to 90, and imagine what she would want to say that you did. And it might have clues for you. But she's for sure not going to say, keep working at a job you don't love. I guarantee you that. And the last thing I would say is back to when we talked about like purpose is the shared purpose for all of us. If the legacy you leave is nothing other than you showed the world how to enjoy your life, that is the greatest gift you could give the planet. So if you double down and say, I'm here to enjoy my job, and you have kids and you show them, that's one of the reasons I did it this way. I wanted my kids to watch me be entrepreneurial and go for my dream. If you show the world what it is to be happy, or to ride the waves, right? It's not like we're joyful, happy every single day, but there's a joie de vivre about like, I love my life. Yeah, it's not my favorite day, but I love my life. Then you're doing the greatest service for the planet that there is. I don't think you have to write a book, to make an impact. So that's my answer on that. What else do we have? You can put your question in the chat if you're on audio. Some of you are just listening. Anybody else? Anything that's really relevant to your life that you want to discuss? Okay. I'm going to read this one. Another stuckness. Better self-awareness to understand where to go and what to look for. You know that something is wrong, fundamentally, but you don't know how to come out of it. The compass is turning around. Yeah. Yeah. So the knowing is everything. The knowing that something is wrong. And listening to that. I mean, that feels to me like being in the being cycle and spending a lot of time doing the things that help you come to knowing. Like for some people, it's automatic writing, where you just sit down. And Liz Gilbert is a big wonder kid at this. She'll get up every morning, she'll take the pen, put it to the paper, and be like, all right, spirit. You don't need to believe in spirit to do this. You just, and universe, whatever. But write through me. Tell me what I don't know, And she'll start with, I'm afraid, or I'm feeling anxious. It's always that. And then stuff comes. And for some people, it's being really physical. I know, like being, where you're out in nature and you're doing, they say flow state really comes after like a struggle. You do something that almost causes pain. Like you're climbing up a mountain, you're riding your bike, and I go out to the ocean and I sit there and I'm like, give it to me. I know something's wrong. Tell me what it is, and you can do it through feeling the body, like noticing, do this if all of us want to do this right now. Where is the sense that something's wrong in the body? And if it helps to close your eyes, you can do that and just locate it. Depending on where it shows up in the body, it tells us a lot. If it's in the shoulders, if it's in the stomach, if it's in the chest, find out where it is. And then if you can, give it a shape or a color, or if it's a little part of you, like a person, take that part out of your body for a minute. And sometimes, like a client yesterday said, it's like a black blob full of cockroaches. I was like, yeah, we want to get that out. So just take it out of the body. And then ask it. There's a good reason for it being there. Those feelings of something being wrong, very good reasons for being there. It's trying to have your back and tell you something's up. So ask that being or that something that you pulled out of your body, what do you want from me? What are you trying to tell me? And it will tell you there's a good reason that it wants you to be safe. It's usually the case. It wants you to be free. Wants you to be happy. So that right there is like, okay, well now I know the good reason I'm feeling something's wrong. And then to know what to do, that's where a lot of these tools I just gave you can play with to sort of start to point to the how. You can go back to the lightning questions from the last Spark Live too. And that's going to unearth stuff that you're craving, stuff that you forgot you wanted, stuff that you knew years ago. But then sign up for a possibility call, because what I would like to do is figure out what area of your life is this showing up in. Like if it's around self-awareness, like you said, you're feeling like you've got more to give maybe, like you've plateaued, like that guy who said, I'm not wowing anyone anymore. Like I know I'm more than this. I know I could be better. Not from a place of lack, but just growth is a human need. We want to grow, and there's a hunger for that. Then how do we want to grow? Do we want to grow spiritually? You want to grow, do you want to learn more about your purpose? And these are the clues that will help us start to understand who you are and what is your gift. I always say the greatest career strategy is to be used for your essence. And a lot of people don't know what that essence is. But I'll give you this just to jumpstart it. I ask this question a lot on podcasts, wherever I go, because I want people to know this, and I think it's the best, quickest way to your essence. If I put you on the top of a mountain, and I told you you had this world's most powerful megaphone, that you could blast it out to the world with one message, it would be your parting gift. One thing that you know to be true, what would you tell the entire planet? And don't overthink it. First thing that comes to mind. If you know what your message is, I always love to know what they are, so you can pop it in the chat. But that's a direct hit at what your essence is. Mine is bring it, the world needs you. That's what I'd shout. And that's my tagline. That's the core of what I do for my work. I don't need to do it here. I could be chief joy officer at some rad company and make sure that everybody brings it. You know, that's what I'm going to do. You hang out with me as your friend. That's what you're going to, I'm always telling you you're beautiful, you know, helping you really remember who you are and what you're made of. It's my essence, you know, and that I'm here to have a giant party in life. Celebration is at my core. Like, I don't want us to waste the time. Nobody ever got in the water to have a bad time. Dee knows that 'cause she surfs. Even if you get like taken down, you go into the B cycle underwater and you ragdoll, you just be, you know? And that's how we deal with life together. So, yeah, we can talk more about that question around better self awareness. That's what I'm all about. Better self awareness. Who am I? What do I want? What do I need to have what I want? And how do I fall in love with all my parts? This is one more thing I want to say on this. You are made up of a million parts. You've got the person that you are when you're hungry and tired. You got the person that you are when you've just had sex. You are the person that you are when you're doing the work of your life, you know, when you're living the dream. All these different parts. When you're angry, hurt, when you're in the little kid who's afraid to make change. And I think the greatest self-awareness comes from falling in love with all those parts, including, you know, the ego that seems to get in our way, the shadow that's always trying to take us out, and the wound. We all come in with a primary wound. And holy cow, if I did not actually fall in love with my wound this year, it took me 52 years, but I was like, oh my God, I get it now. This guy that I work with, Scott Picard, genius. If any of you could ever work with him, I highly recommend. He told me to own my wound all these years. And I was like, I don't want to have a wound, Scott. I'd like to heal it, thank you. And so I just secretly was like, I don't need to tell him. I'm just going to get rid of mine. And he was like, just session after session, like, one of these days you're going to own it because it's the gateway to everything. The wound is the gateway to you being vulnerable in relationship. It's your most lovable part. It's your most deeply human part. And it's like usually directly related to what our purpose is, like why I do what I do. And so I finally got it, that my wound is that something about me is wrong. I'm like at a deep level just wrong. I am not right, you know? So it led me to just constantly telling everybody else on the planet, you're perfect. Like, oh my God, you're everything. You should just do that. You're great at what you do. Do this. Oh my God, you're such a gift to the planet. And not really owning that for myself, which is, again, why I need to get out on social media more and just allow myself to give more, because my wound has been standing in the way, you know? So when you can do that deeper work and fall in love with yourself, that's the PhD level self-awareness. So I hope that answered that question, and more to talk. So sign up for a possibility session. Anybody else before I tell you a little bit about the Find Your Ideal Job course?
Hey, I would love to share.
Yes, Lindsay, hello.
Hey, sorry I was late. Gosh, I totally forgot what time zone I was in. And I'm like, man, anyways, I'm sorry I'm late, that I missed, but I'll watch the recording and catch up. But I just wanted to just share to attest to the truth that I feel and what I did catch in the call. And love the quadrants. I'm very analytical in the arrows. Like, I've never seen it as something set up that way, and I resonate with it a lot. It's very helpful. But last Spark call that we had, I spoke about this meditation class that I started locally. And it was like my first time. The weekend that had just passed was like the first time that I did it. So I did it again, like a couple weeks after that. And I was late to it, or I thought I was late and ended up not being late. And I was catching the end of another yoga class. And it was really interesting because on the way, I was feeling like, oh my God, I'm late. Like, this is only the second time that I've done this. Like, what? And then I'm like, there's something deeper within me that was like, no, just trust, like God's never late. And like, you're God, you're of God and all this. So I just sort of eased into it. And side note, this was very vulnerable for me to begin this meditation class. For those of you that weren't there last call, it was sort of like this just jumping off the cliff and going for it finally type of thing. So there was like already a lot of fear sort of marinating, putting myself out there. I feel more comfortable behind, like, not in the spotlight. And anyway, so whenever I got there, I had a minute to talk to the owner of the studio, and she ended up offering me a job to like teach yoga there. And I was like, wow, I'm like here. I thought I was late this whole time, but actually I was right on time, to receive the job. So I was like, wow, that's super cool. So the next weekend, I teach my first class, and it was great. I still had that, like, I want to vomit in my stomach, but like it's yoga, yoga, so I'm cool. And then after, like, the class went great and everything, and she texted me later that day, and then she asked me to teach a workshop like in the following month. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So I just thought it was really neat because it was such a concrete example of what you're talking about, that like taking the action leads to the results, and then celebrate. I like that.
Yeah.
But then, like, the belief, like I'm doing the yoga class again tomorrow, and I definitely feel less fear, and I definitely feel more belief in myself, and that like I'm in this position for a reason and like supposed to be there. But yeah, I just thought it was so awesome. And then also that tapping in piece, like I really believe that's important. It's really, really important, like just to reintegrate. And like for me, I like think of it like calibration, it's like I have to recalibrate myself, like even after such a great experience of like giving and receiving, like in the classes and all of that. Like there's still this filling up that has to happen, and
Yeah.
it's that tapping in, exactly like you said. And the last thing that I want to share about is like the second set of quadrants, which was just the being cycle. I've worked in the corporate world like every single job that I've had, and I've worked in a lot of different industries and been very like good and successful, and but just super bored after like I kind of like understand the industry. It's just like, okay, I want to like move on. And I just like finally, my husband's been a huge like supporter of just like just step away from it all, like find you, just take some time to be, you don't have to be in the corporate world, figure out like who you are and what you really want to do in that whole piece. And I mean, I would like cry sometimes because it felt so uncomfortable to just be and to like
Yes.
not be producing, to not be putting on, my cute little slacks and high heels and like stomping into the office. Like it was very interesting. And I really am grateful for that because I have like had every single fear come up. And mostly like the fears are the wounds of like, like we talked about it last time, just that imposter syndrome of like, oh, who do you think you are teaching meditation or anything about quantum physics or whatever, it's like just this like lie. And so I realized that in this being state, I had to really face these like inner demons, if you will, and this like false perception of self that I've created because I didn't have anybody else outside of me, like in the corporate world or my boss or, sales manager, whatever, telling me like, oh, you're doing a great job or you're producing well, or, here, let's promote you. All of these external things like lifting me up and giving me value. So it was like literally going back to, I felt like a kid again, and spent most of my days, well, at first just sort of like pacing, and then eventually I finally found like a rhythm. And a lot of that involved going outside and working in the garden and things like that. And
Lindsay, it's super brave though. I just have to say, like, people don't want to go into the being for that reason because they have to hear and face
oh yeah,
and catch up with themselves, and it's kind of hard sometimes.
oh yeah,
But that's the practice. That's how you grow. And wouldn't it be amazing if your corporate work, I think the companies that are really going to make it in the future are the ones that invest in who we're becoming. That
Yeah,
want to grow us to become like that. There's a relationship, not just in a paycheck,
right.
but that they want to help us become like that
Yeah.
education around develop more self-awareness and not just what am I doing, but who am I being at work.
Right. Oh God, it's so important. And I
Yeah,
definitely agree with you. I feel the world shifting in that way. And
yeah.
these like false perceptions sort of falling off. The paradigm isn't working anymore, and I love it. And stepping away has helped me see that. And I want to be a part of that movement to help others sort of find that as well. And yeah, I'm still working on the being cycle, and integrating my doing into the being like together. I feel like that is probably where my puzzle pieces are just sort of like I'm having to rotate and figure it out. But
You know what? And I'm glad you said that because I think people really do get stumped. They're like, our world doesn't, reward being. And how do I work it in? And there was a client that was at a director level position at a really, great company, happy, but knew that she could give more. A lot like what we were just talking about. I know I have more impact to cause. And so I told her that the secret for her, because she was teetering on burnout and anxiety and all the things too many times, it was just a cycle. I said, you've got to integrate the being where it's not like you have to, all great leaders take a retreat every 90 days. There is a practice of like doing the being and getting that space to create and innovate and think, out of the box every 90 days. But it's not waiting for that, and it's not waiting for the holidays or the weekends either. It's thinking of energy out like a wheel, like it's energy out, energy in, energy out, energy in, that you're always balancing that throughout the day. And so when she started to figure out how being like, I know I've always got flowers. People are like, oh, well, you don't have to always have the flowers. I'm like, flowers, the things, like the fresh air, that time in nature, like what allows the being for you, that energy is being put into you as you're doing. So it becomes blended, right? It can be spaces and times, and I'm a big fan of like white spaces on your calendar and time where no one can reach you, and all of that is critical. But when it really comes down to it, it's taking these breaths and these moments to replenish throughout the day quite predictably and consistently, like blocking off the calendar for your morning routine, period, end of story. That's how this woman is now at C level in just 2 years. She went from director to CMO because she was like, I think people are going to pass me by. And I was like, no, you're going to build a Wonder Woman invisible jet and you're going to go over here. And they're going to like, how'd you do that? She just beat the system,
Love
So,
it.
so yeah. And it's deeply personal. It's like, what you need. I needed to work from home before that was a thing. I needed things that would put energy in and help me be and tune into myself and be away from the noise more
Right.
than the next person.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, figuring out how it works for you.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for that. Like you're talking about that energy sort of cycle. And I just got this visualization and heard the word like harmony. It's very harmonious,
Ah, I
to have
love it.
that balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Thank you, Lindsay. I always
Oh,
love your
thank you.
shares.
So grateful
So
to be
good to
here.
know you. Mm. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you all too long, so you can always send me questions. I'm just going to do a quick for anybody who's on the replay or for any of you who want to stay, just to do a quick show of what this is that's coming because I'm so excited about it. I just feel like 9 weeks that by 2023, before 2023, you will have clarity about the job that you're here to do. So this is the site. We touched on some of this today, but you're going to learn who you are, what you're here to do, what your ideal job is. You're going to write up that job description, this is why the job market I think is so broken. That you go out and you look for jobs that may or may not fit you, that somebody else wrote, not even knowing you, in a box, and try to fit yourself into that box instead of writing your own ideal job description and going out into the world and telling people about what you uniquely are here to give. I wrote all my own job descriptions before I launched out on my own. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. At Google, they let you have a 20%er gig, like you would do 80% of this and 20% of that. I think we can just do so much better. So we're going to write those ideal jobs. And then we're going to really dive into what do you need in order to do that job? What are the conditions you require, which are unique to you? And we have user guides that we are going to develop that really tell you, this is ultimate self-awareness as well, what I need to be the best and to do the work of my career. And then we're going to tell a new story. Who are you? How'd you get to where you are? I know Jennifer was saying, I've done this for 56 years, but what's the new story? How do we take all the stuff you have done and fold it into a new story that people would understand? This is where my marketing girl really comes into play to help you develop your personal brand so that you can go out there and interview like nobody's business, or start your own thing, start your own job and tell collaborators or customers or VC people what your story is and why you've launched to do what you're doing. So this all just goes over why now. I feel like it's just so critical now, and this is the first time I've condensed everything that I do with all these clients one-on-one into a group like this. And it's because I think we all need to be out there doing what we're here to do. It's just such a critical moment. So we start September 20th. We're going to meet every week for just 9 weeks. And it's amazing what we'll get done in just 9 weeks. 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern for 90 minutes. And then we're going to have these working sessions where you will come out with these artifacts. It's not like you're just going to sit and listen to replays or sit and listen to me talk. We're going to do this, and you're going to be bolstered by rad humans. I don't know why I'm so lucky to just attract the most rad humans, but I do. You're all here, and it's just this group of people that I remember in the beginning, I used to say, like, I don't know my target audiences. I'm supposed to have a niche, And this one really brilliant person said, let them find you. Don't worry about it. And you all are like giant-hearted, want to do good in the world, be great humans, amazing souls. I call you luminaries because I think you just bring light to the planet, and that's who you'll get to hang out with. So we connect on Marco Polo and WhatsApp and have this safe space. And then I also have another app for the larger luminary community where we'll do like other guest teacher calls, monthly classes and things. So you have all that, and the site just really goes into detail on all of it. So I just wanted to give you a quick peek to come out here and check it out for yourself. And if you happen to be on this call and say, oh my God, I know somebody who could really use this, feel free to share. It would be amazing. I have a bunch of people already signed up, and I told them to bring their friends, because what better time to like double down and say, I want to go for the dream, but with the people that you love. So that's all. I want you to go play and feel excited and full of hope this Labor Day weekend. And it was such a dream to spend Saturday morning with you. Thanks for being here. All right. Au revoir.
Hi, thank you.
Bye.